centuries, no one has surpassed the standards that they set for standing steadfast. The standards that they set for standing steadfast. Mawla Ali Jan, Mawla Ali Jan, Amir al-Mu'minin, Ya Shah Mardan, Ya Shah Mardan, Ya Shah Mardan. For Haqq and Batil, you are the Mizan, you are the Mizan. Mawla Ali Jan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, this is the 7th in this series of 9 majalis on the topic of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam, a manifestation of the Holy Quran. We have the honor of having Hujjatul Islam, Moulana Syed Aqib Jaffry here with us to recite these majalis, and I will request him to come and take the minbar. But before that, I'd like you to recite a Suratul Fatiha for the sponsors of today's majlis. The names of the marhumeen of the sponsors are Sayyid Shafqat Ali, Farasit Jabin, Yusuf Shirazi, Nazir Begum, and Mansoor Ja'fari. Let's recite a Suratul Fatiha for them. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bar Muhammad wa Ahl Bayt Muhammad salawat.
Please recite in their salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الغر الميامين المعصومين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وخطابه المتين وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم. صلوات. Verily this Quran guides towards that which is most upright. Quran, being a book of guidance, contains within it all that mankind is in need of to fulfill its purpose of creation. All that it is in need of to fulfill its purpose of creation. The purpose of creation, as described by the Holy Quran, is ibadat. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Worship and ibadat, and we've discussed that the essence of ibadat is obedience. So obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what we are created for. And since that is the purpose of creation, it was important that God created this universe that is in alignment with the purpose of creation. तर्ज़ खिलकत हदफ़ खिलकत के मुताबिक होना चाहिए. The purpose of creation is to test us, is obedience, is so that we receive commands from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and God shows us whom among us follow His commands and whom are those who disobey. So it was important that this entire universe was set up in such a manner that this purpose was fulfilled. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, salli ala Muhammadin wa alihi. In his dialogue with Mufazzal Umar, Mufazzal says that a lot of people who object to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they see things in this universe that they cannot understand. For example, when you see pain and sufferings in this dunya, and you cannot understand the reason and the philosophy behind them, then they criticize the Creator. It is because they have failed to understand the purpose behind creation. For example, if somebody was to walk into this room hoping that in this room there is going to be a soccer game that will be set up, and then when he moves in and he looks at these seats arranged in this manner and this podium and the stage, they're going to say, what is wrong with this place? They will say, what is wrong with this place? But if only they knew that this was set up for a majlis, then they would say everything is in perfect order. If a person fails to understand the purpose behind creation, then he will find faults with what he sees around. If they think that this dunya has been set up so that there will be absolute happiness in this dunya. Allah Ta'ala subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Hazrat Musa, saying that I have placed 6 things in 6 places, people are finding it in other places, and they will never find them. The first thing, and this was recited last year as well, so I'll just repeat the first statement. हमने आसाइश को आखिरत में रखा है, लोग दुनिया में ढूंढ रहे हैं. We have placed absolute happiness, absolute comfort in the hereafter. People are looking for it in this dunya. They will never find it. This dunya has not been designed to provide absolute happiness. With every happiness, with every ease in this dunya, there is a pain. There is a suffering coupled with it. And with every suffering, there is an ease coupled with it. With every suffering, you become stronger. It is only in the hereafter that there will be absolute happiness and absolute pain. Pain that will not be of any benefit in the hellfire. That is the hellfire. And in heaven, there will be absolute happiness. So those who criticize this dunya is because they're not looking at it in the right manner. A person went to the store to buy a glass of water, and the glass was put upside down. He picked up the glass and he said, this glass The glass is good, the quality of the glass is good, but it has two problems. And the shopkeeper said, what problems do you see in this glass? And since the glass was upside down, he said, well, it doesn't have a top. It's closed. And there's a hole at the bottom. So these are two important faults. The shopkeeper turned it around and said, now look at it. And he said, it's perfect. So the way we look at this world, our worldview regarding this dunya will decide whether we find perfection in this dunya or we find faults with this dunya. Imam Sadiq says, those who find faults in this dunya, it is because they have failed to understand the purpose behind creation. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. In this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has delayed the punishments of our sins. You perform a sin, you are not punished immediately. And there is divine wisdom behind that. Imagine what would happen if the moment you performed a sin, you would be punished immediately. The moment you looked at a non-mahram, your eyes were toasted. What would happen? How many blind people would be out there? What would happen? Wouldn't this world be a better place? The moment you do a sin, you are punished immediately. If that was to happen, first of all, there wouldn't be a lot of blind people. There wouldn't be a lot of blind people. Why? Because the moment I put my hand in fire, it gets burnt. How many people will burn with burnt hands? Very few. The first person to commit this sin will be an example for all others. And then no one would commit that sin because of the fear of the imminent punishment. Then there would be no test left. There would be no imtihan. There would be no examination. Because everybody will be avoiding those sins because of the fear of the imminent punishment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has delayed these punishments so that He could find out who believe in His words, who believe in hell and hereafter. If everything was punished and rewarded immediately, then there would be no imtihan left, then there would be no test left. One of the purposes and the prime purpose of the creation of this dunya is a test. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةِ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Who amongst you performs the best of the actions? This is the purpose. And in that test, God expects us to behave in a certain manner. And He expects His trustees, His divine representatives to fulfill certain obligations. One of the prime obligations that they have is to be the perfect manifestation of the verses of the Holy Quran. To personify the Quran in their entire existence and be a role model for all of us. And that is what our topic is, Imam Hussain, a manifestation of the Holy Quran. In the previous days, we saw how he fulfilled, a glimpse of how he fulfilled the obligation of Amr bil Maruf wa Nahi anil Munkar. Another important expectation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from all of us, and more importantly from the divine trustees of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that we should all work towards this verse of the Holy Quran, Kalimatullah hiyal ulya. That the word of Allah be supreme. The kalima of Allah be supreme. This is an expectation. Allah wants all of us to work in that direction where it is the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is supreme. No word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is higher than the word of Allah. No law of Allah, no law of this world is higher than the law of Allah. No human is higher than those individuals who embody the verses of the Holy Quran within themselves. Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam is called as Kalimatullah in the Holy Quran. He is the Kalimatullah. He is the manifestation of the Sharia that he brought. So the kalimatullah has to remain supreme in all times to come. These are things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. There are other things that you find in the Holy Quran. He wants us to help Him. He wants us to loan money to Him. Don't be surprised. In Tansurullah, if you help Allah, Allah will help you. Allah expects us to help Him. When Hazrat Isa ﷺ said to his Hawaris, what did he say? Man ansari ilallah. Who will be my helper towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what did they reply? Nahnu ansarullah. We are the helpers of Allah. So Allah wants help from us. Allah wants loan from us. Allah wants qarz from us. What does the word say? Man dhalladhi yuqrizullaha qarzan hasana. Who is there who gives Allah a qarz hasana? A beautiful loan. فَيُزَعِفَهُ لَهُ أَزْعَافًا فَيُزَعِفَ لَهُ وَلَهُ أَجْرٌ kareem. So that he multiplies it many times for them. And he is rewarded an ajr kareem. So Allah wants loan from us. Why does Allah want help from us? Why does Allah want loan from us? The Quran is saying Allah wants help and Allah wants loan. Why? Is He in need of loan? Is He in need of help? No. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam, in Nahj al-Balagha he says, فَلَمْ يَسْتَنْصِرْكُمْ مِنْ ذُلٍّ وَلَمْ يَسْتَقْرِزْكُمْ مِنْ قُلٍّ. He does not want help from you because of his ajz, because he is in need. No. And he did not ask loan from you because he has little. No. And then he explains the reason. He says, in istansarakum walahu junudus samawati wal arz wa huwa al azizul hakim. He has asked you for help, as to Him belongs the soldiers and the kingdom of the samawat and the earth. And He is Aziz and Hakim. وَاسْتَقْرَزْكُمْ. And He has sought qarz from you. وَلَهُ خَزَائِنُ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And the treasures of the skies and the earth belongs to Him. وَهُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. And He is Ghani and Hamid. وَإِنَّمَا أَرَادَ أَن يَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. He wanted to see which among you does the ahsan, the best of the deeds. So He's not in need. He wants us to see who does the best of the deeds. Who amongst us gives the best of the loans. Who amongst us helps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most. Who amongst us fulfills this obligation of kalimatullahi hayal uliya, the rule of Allah. The kalima of Allah has to be supreme. It is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the word of and the law of Allah that should rule over this dunya. That is what Karbala was all about. لِتَكُونَ كَلِمَةَ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلِيَا. So that the kalima of Allah reigns over all other words. That is why Imam Hussain Islam gave everything. And we see these personalities manifest these verses, even these verses that we talked about, in the best possible manner. When it comes to qarz, sometimes when we give loan to people, the Holy Quran says, who is there to give loan to Allah? So Allah multiplies it many times for you. In one of the traditions it is said, when you give a loan, as long as it is a loan in the hands of the person and it is not returned, you are rewarded every moment the reward of the ibadat of the malaika, as long as it remains as a debt. And when it is returned, it is advisable that the person who is returning it should return more than what he borrowed. So if you lent 1 lakh rupees, you should not ask for more. But those who are returning, it is mustahab for them to return more than what they borrowed. It's mustahab. Imagine if this istihbab, this mustahab got practiced, this sunnah would become. Right now, if you borrow 1 lakh, very seldom people return the entire 1 lakh. They end up returning less. And another question, is sadaqah better or loan better? If somebody was to ask for sadaqah and if you had the option of giving a loan, which is better? One would think sadaqah. But the reward for giving loan is more than the reward of giving sadaqah. It's surprising. We haven't really uncovered the mysteries and secrets. We haven't really understood what treasure we have. And the reason behind this is it is because the loan, the money that is given as loan goes in the hands of the one who really needs it. If there is free money being distributed, there will be a lot of people who would come and take it. But if there is loan being given, only those who are in need would take it. Plus there is the honor of the other person that is protected when loan is given. We have a beautiful story of in the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salatu was salam. When a person came to the Imam, very honorable person, it's because based on what he said, you can tell that he was very honorable, but because of the circumstances, he was left with no option but to ask for money. So he came to the Imam, and standing outside the door, he recited these verses. Lam yabqa li shay'un yuba'u bidirhamin. I'm not left with anything that I can sell for a dirham. I don't have anything left that I can sell. Yakfika manzara halati an mukhbiri. If you want to testify, if you want proof of my statement, all you need to do is to look at my face. All you need to do is to look at my face. I have nothing left illa baqaya ma'i wajhi, except my honor. Apne chehre ki abru bachi hai. That is all I have left to sell. Waqad wajadtuka mushtari. And I found you as someone who is worth selling it. You are the one who is worth that I sell my abru to. When Imam heard this, he asked his servant, how much do we have at home? How much money do we have at home? He said 12,000 dirhams. He said, bring all of it. He brought all of it. He said, give it to him. He said, we won't be left with anything. That's all we have. How will we spend the next day? The Imam said, Allah will make arrangements for that. He gave him everything from behind the door. He did not even open the door to look at his face. He gave him everything, and while giving, he recited another verse. A part of it says, وَخُذِ الْقَلِيلِ وَكُنْ كَأَنَّكَ لَمْ تَبِعْ. Take this little amount that I have to offer and pretend that neither you sold what you wanted to sell and neither did I buy from you what you wanted to sell. Na tumne becha, na maine kharida. And take this. The best way of blessing someone, of giving someone. Bahifz abaru. The Holy Quran says, Sadaqun qawlun ma'roof khayrun min sadaqatin yatba'uha al-aza. A qawl ma'roof, a good word is better than a sadaqah which is followed by aziyat, which is followed by troubling someone. You give a sadaqah to someone and then you remind him of the help you gave him when he was in need. The Holy Quran says a good word, if you had excused in a good manner, that was better than helping him and then reminding him. These verses being manifested in our Imams in this manner. Another example, a person came to Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam, Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, and he asked for help, and he described his need, and the Imam decided that he should be helped. So the Imam said to his accountant, he said, give him 1,000. Give him 1,000. فَأَمَرَ لَهُ بِأَلْفٍ. Give him 1,000. And he did not mention what. So the accountant said, should I give him 1,000 gold coins or 1,000 silver coins? That was an obvious question for him to ask. Look at the reply. The Imam said, كِلَاهُمَا إِنْدِي حَجَرَانِ. Both of them are stones to me. Give him whatever is of more benefit to him. Kilahuma. It's like if you say 100 and then your accountant asks 100 rupees or $100, and then you'd say whatever is of more benefit to him. For me, both are paper. For me, both of them are pieces of paper. Are we there with a piece of $100 and a piece of 100 rupees? They both, for me, are pieces of paper. Our attachment to $100 is the same as that of 100 rupees. These are the of the holy manifestations of the verses of the Holy Quran. How did they get there? How can we get there? Or how can we at least move in that direction so that eventually we claim to be following in the footsteps of these people? I'll have to take you back to the verse yesterday. Summa la'atiyannahum min bayni aydihim wa min khalfihim. Shaitan says, I will come and deceive them from the front and from the back, and from the right and from the left. These are the 4 ways Shaitan is going to deceive us. If we can have control over all those 4 ways, we will begin to manifest part of the Quran. Some of the verses of the Holy Quran. We'll begin to cultivate these virtues within ourselves. Shaitan glorifies the dunya for us and belittles the akhirah. Dunya ko hamari nigahon mein azim karke dikhayega. Akhirat ko hamari nigahon mein chota banakar dikhayega. And the Imams, how do you fight this? How do you do the tarbiyat of your children? You do the exact opposite. And that is what we see the Quran doing. Look at the descriptions of the Quran in this dunya. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Akhirat is better and eternal. A beautiful statement from one of the Imams. He says, addressing Hisham, he says, the Ahle Aql look at this dunya and its inhabitants. The people of intellect, the people of Aql looked at this dunya and its inhabitants, and they realized that they cannot achieve this dunya without hard work and struggle. Right? And then he looked at the akhirat and the ahlul akhirah. So before all those young children here who are about to start their careers, an important decision to make right now. The people of intellect, the people of aql, they look at this dunya, a long journey ahead of you. This dunya will not be achievable without hard work and struggle. And then this person looks at the akhirah and the people of akhirah and then realizes that even akhirah is not achievable without hard work and struggle. So then he says to himself, if hard work is what is required, then I should rather put all that hard work for achieving that which is eternal and everlasting. अगर मुशक्कत ही करनी है तो मुशक्कत को उस रास्ते में करार दूं जो हमेशा रहने वाली है. Why should I work towards something that is limited? Now, just making sure that no wrong message is sent. Islam does not want you to ignore and leave this dunya. That is not the message this verse is, this saying of the Imam is propagating. It is through this dunya that your akhirat will be earned. A person came to the Holy Prophet and said, I want to make a lot, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He said, I want to make a lot of money. The Imam or the Prophet asked, what do you want to do with it? He said, I want to build hospitals and schools and go for Hajj and Ziyarat. He said, well, you are then not running after the dunya, you are running after the akhirah. It is the intention with which you engage with this dunya that will define whether you are running after the dunya or running after the akhirah. You could be a student in the hawza, you could be sitting on the member, but if fame and money is what you want, then you are not earning your akhirah, you are earning your dunya. The religion is very clear about it. If a person learns the religious studies so that he could debate with others and exercise his superiority over others, he is choosing for himself a place in the hellfire. The instructions are very clear. How you engage with this dunya defines whether you are ahle dunya or ahle akhirah. It is not how much you have. It is why you are running after it. Is it for the sake of this dunya or the sake of akhirah? Now that we started this topic, I'll give you one story and then inshallah we'll move on. There was this alim who wrote a book condemning the dunya. And a wonderful book. So a person read that book and he was impressed with the book and he said, I want to meet this scholar. So he found out where he was staying and then he decided to pay him a visit. And as he came close to his locality, he realized that it happened to be a posh area of that city. And then he said, why is he living in this part of the city? He has written a book condemning the dunya. Why is he living in this part of the... Anyway, he decided to knock the door, and then when the door opened and he peeked inside, it was a farmhouse. There were animals and there were servants and a mansion. He said, look at this alim, he writes this book for us and look at how he lives. And these judgments we make all the time. But then he decided, I've come this far, let me go and at least talk to him. And when he came there, he saw him and he started a conversation. The scholar noticed that there is something going on in his mind and he cannot express it. So during this conversation, this man decides to test this alim with a final question. He said, let's go for ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, which is like a few 50, 60 kilometers away. So let's go and do the ziyarat. And when he said this, he immediately stood up and said, let's go. He said, how can you leave so quickly? Or do you not want to assign all of these tasks that you have to someone else? He said, well, that is going to come just like that. Maut bhi baghair bataye aayegi. Let's go. If this is such a noble task, this will be taken care of. This was even more surprising for him. On the journey, when they were like 2 stops away from Karbala, this person who was with the scholar happened to lose his staff in the previous stop. So just 2 stops away from Karbala, he said, oh, scholar, allow me to go back and get that staff of mine. I've just forgotten that in the previous station. This scholar said to him, we're only 2 stops away. It will take you a while to go back and just let go of that staff. Let's move forward. Let's continue our journey. He said, I cannot live without that staff. It's my favorite staff. It's been with me for so long. I have to go back and get that staff. At that point, the scholar turned to him and said, the dunya that I condemned in my book is this dunya of yours. This staff of yours, which is your only possession, and yet you cannot let go of it. This is the dunya that is condemned. Not my dunya, which I left the moment you asked me to go for ziyarat of Imam Hussain. I left all of that. I don't even know if I'm going to return back to it. So the love of this dunya is what is condemned. Another beautiful statement, one of my friends, he said, Islam, it is okay if you have wealth in your pocket. It should not be in your heart. जेब में पैसा होना इस्लाम को इससे मसला नहीं है. पैसे दिल के अंदर चले जाएं, इस्लाम को उससे मसला है. And look at how the Imams belittled this dunya before us and glorified the akhirah for us. In one of the travels, when Imam Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam was returning back from Sham, he noticed that on the base of a mountain, a lot of Christians had gathered. So he asked them, what is going on? Is there a day that they celebrate? He was told that this is the day when our greatest priest, he comes out of his house and he visits us. He pays a visit to us once every year. And we are waiting to meet him. And this is a big day for us. So the Imam, along with his son, who was also the Imam, they also decided to sit in that gathering. When this priest came and he sat down and he looked at the gathering, at all the faces, and when he saw the face of the Imam, he immediately stopped. His face stopped, because the face of the Imam stood among all of these other faces. He turned to him and he said, "Are you from among us?" Imam said, "No, I'm not from amongst you. I'm from the Muslimin." Then he asked a new question. He said, this other question that he asked, "Are you from the ulama or are you from the juhala?" Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Are you from, may Allah cure inshallah this child. May Allah, are you from amongst us from the others? He said, I'm from amongst the Muslimin. Are you from the ulama or are you from the juhala? The Imam said, I am not from the juhala. Should I ask you a question or are you going to ask me a question? The Imam said, go ahead, ask me a question. He asked a couple of questions. The first question he asked, that you Muslims claim that in heaven there will be no washrooms. You will eat and you will not need to excrete. So in heavens, you will eat as much as you want, but there will be no trouble associated of going to the washroom and through the digestive process and then getting rid of what is not needed. Everything you eat will be used. Is there any example of that in this dunya? Any example of that in this dunya? The Imam said, yes, why not? The baby in the womb of the mother is the example of that. It consumes, but it does not excrete. He got surprised. He turned back to him and said, but you said you are not an alim. He said, I didn't say that. I said, I am not a jahil. The next question, he said, you claim that in heaven, no matter how many times, all the blessings of heaven, you will consume them and it will not diminish, it will not decrease. Any example of that in this dunya? He said, yes. What is the example? The example of that in this dunya is that of fire, that of a candle. From one candle you can light many other candles without the original candle reducing in its light. And he asked other questions one after the other, and the Imam continued to answer those questions till a point that he became really upset, and he turned to his Christian companions or Christian students and said, you have invited a Muslim to humiliate me in front of him? Now as long as I'm living, I am not going to show my face to all of you again. What was the Imam doing here? By presenting the blessings of the Akhirah. One of the statements, he says, the blessings of Akhirah are such that when you, as compared to the blessings of this dunya, the blessings of dunya are such that when you hear about the blessings of this dunya, you build a picture of them. And when you encounter them, you say that this is not what I had expected. Jaisa suna tha, vaisa nahi paya. But the blessings of akhirat are such that when you listen about them, you make an image of them, and when you will encounter those blessings, you will say, Jaisa suna tha, usse badhkar paya. It will exceed your expectations. These statements of the Imam, they are glorifying the akhirah for us, belittling the dunya. When Imam said that in every station that he descended, that in order to understand that how insignificant this dunya is, you need to look at the story of Prophet Yahya alayhi salam, how he was slaughtered in this dunya and how his head was sent to one of the prostitutes of Bani Israel. Imam was continuously doing that so that he could help each and every individual get to their perfection. لِتَكُونَ كَلِمَةِ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا. He wanted the supremacy of the rule and law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he was moving towards Kufa, when the Imam was moving towards Kufa, and on the journey he met Farazdaq. And the Imam asked him about the situation in Farazdaq, in Kufa, and what was transpiring in Kufa. And when he told him what was happening and what was going on, the Imam responded to him with this statement: Ya Farazdaq, inna ha'ula'i qawmun, these are people, this is a nation, lazimu ta'at ash-shaytan wa taraku ta'at ar-rahman. This is the group of people who has clinged to the worship of shaitan and they've left the worship of the Rahman. Wa azharul fasad fil arz, and they have manifested corruption on the face of earth. Wa abtalul hudud, and they have violated and they have nullified the laws and hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa sharibul khumur, and they drink. Wasta'asru fi amwalil fuqara, and they take from the property of the fuqara wal masakin. What should one do in this situation? And who is more desirable and deserving to stand up against all of this? He says, wa ana awla man qama bin nusrati dinillah, and I am most deserving to stand up to help the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa i'zaz shar'ihi, and the izzat of his sharia, wal jihad fi sabilillah. Why? litakuna kalimatullahi hiya al-ulya, so that the word of Allah be supreme. His entire movement was another manifestation of this verse of the Holy Quran, that the word of Allah, the law of Allah has to be supreme. And he, being the word of Allah himself, he has to be supreme. He cannot submit to anyone else. For his submission would mean that the word of Allah did not end up being supreme. They wanted to humiliate him. They wanted him to submit. He did not. He did not. Right from day one, he said, Misli la yuba'u mislah. The likes of me will never pay allegiance to the likes of him. I will not submit to him. In their statement, وَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ. Then we should say goodbye to Islam if the reins of the ummah are in the hands of a person like Yazid. It is for the supremacy of Islam, the supremacy and for the baqa and existence of the divine message that the Holy Prophet brought, which was needed for all of us, me and you, and all humans to come till the day of judgment, so that they could walk on that path and get to their perfection. For if this past was lost, then the purpose of creation would be over. If there is no path to follow, then there is no need for me and you to be in this world then. If we are here, it is because Imam Hussain ﷺ saved that path to perfection. And from that, I don't need to say that it automatically derives that if that path was saved for us to achieve perfection, then it is an obligation on us to follow that path. And only those who follow that path are deserving, have the right to mourn over him and truly appreciate his sacrifice. On the day of Ashura, they're one of the verses that are associated with the Imam. They wanted him to be humiliated. They had left him with only two choices, the sword or submission. And he said in this verse that is attributed to him, he said, Al-ar, al-mautu awla min rukubil ar. Death is better than humiliation. Again, it's a message for all of us. In one of the traditions, it is said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not allowed any human to humiliate himself in any conditions. This is not allowed. Allah has created us with far more karamat. He does not want anyone to be humiliated. We should humiliate ourselves only before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one else. Imam says, Al-mautu awla min rukubil ar. Death is better than humiliation. So if I'm given a choice between death and humiliation, what am I going to choose? Death. The next verse, it says, Wal aru awla min dukhulin nar. Humiliation is better than entering the hellfire. This humiliation that is said in the second verse, this is the perceived humiliation that comes, for example, as a result of peer pressure. For the youth who are here, sometimes because of peer pressure, if you don't do certain things, you feel humiliated. This humiliation, wal aru awla min dukhulin nar, Imam says, this humiliation is better than entering the hellfire. As a result of peer pressure, do not violate the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Accept this humiliation, for this humiliation is better than entering the hellfire. And the humiliation of this submitting to someone other than God, never submit to that. Never accept that humiliation, for al-mautu awla min rukubil ar. Death is better than that. In his famous statement on the day of Ashur, he said, Inna da'i ibn da'i kad raqaza bayna snatain. This person, Ibn Ziyad, has given me only two options, bayna zillati wa dhilla, humiliation and the sword. Wa hayhat min dhilla. And humiliation is far from me. I'm never going to choose that. Until the last moment of his life, he was not humiliated. The enemy felt humiliation at what they were doing. But with every passing moment, we find in the narrations of historical accounts, even the enemy would say, I had not seen a person with such a bright face on the day of Ashura as that of Imam Hussain. With every shaheed who left this world, the Imam's face became even more and more delighted. He was happy that this sacrifice has also been accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The state of shukr, कि खुदा ने मेरी इस इबादत को भी कबूल किया. Gradually, one after the other, the companions of Imam Hussain got shaheed. And then came a time when Hazrat Abbas ﷺ was standing in front of the Imam. Hazrat Abbas standing in front of the Imam, seeking permission to go to the battlefield. A very difficult time for the Imam. For Hazrat Abbas was very special. He was the flag bearer of the army. The Imam turned to him, how can I let you go? You are the flag bearer of my army. If I let you go, the army will fall apart. Hazrat Abbas turned to him and said, but where is that army? The army is no more, my Imam. قَدْ زَاقَتْ صَدْرِي مِنْ حَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. My heart no longer wants to live in this dunya. Give me the permission to go to the battlefield. The Imam granted him permission to get water for the children. He went to the battlefield. And like other companions, he first admonished the enemy. He advised them not to do what they were doing. And then he turned back, he came back to the Imam to inform the Imam what had transpired. This is what I said, and this is how they responded. And this conversation was going on. Suddenly he heard the cries of Al-Atash, Al-Atash, water, water. It's been a couple of days, the children are thirsty. In some of the accounts it says that children used to wander around the camp in which the water bags were kept. It was a bit humid over there. When he heard the cries of Al-Atash, Al-Atash, he could not stand anymore. He took the water bag and he rushed towards river Euphrates, charging through the enemy, cutting their ranks, making way towards the river Euphrates. They wanted to stop him, but they could not. River Euphrates was guarded by 4,000 soldiers. When they saw the son of Ali charging towards them, they left their positions and allowed him to enter the river Euphrates. Ali ka sher dakhil hote hain river Euphrates. When he enters the river, the enemy watching at a distance, he takes some water in his hands, looks at the water, and then he leaves that water, drops that water back into the river. Why did he do that? Different people tried to give different reasons. Some say that he wanted his horse to drink from the water, and the horse would not drink until his master would drink. Some say that when he picked the water to drink, he was reminded of Sakina. How can I drink when Sakina and Ali Asghar are thirsty? So he let it go. How can I drink when my master is thirsty? And this is the reason that he himself explains. At that point, when he dropped the water, he recited these verses. He said, Ya nafso min ba'dil Hussain huni. Oh my soul, after Hussain, you are trivial. Wa ba'dahu la kunti an takuni. You should not be living after Imam Hussain. It is not worth living after Imam Hussain has passed away. Haza Husainun waridul manuni. This is my Hussain who is about to drink from the fountain of death. Wa tashribina barid al yamini. And how dare you can drink from this cold water here? When Imam Hussain is about to drink from the fountain of death, you cannot drink from this cold water. Hayhat ma hadha fi'alu dini wala fi'alu sadiqil yaqini. This is not the action of a person who believes in his religion and the person who has yaqeen over his religion. He would not do this. He filled his water bag with the water, hoping that he's able to take this water back to the camps. He started to head back towards the camp. When he charged and came towards the river Euphrates, he took the shortest path. But when he was coming back, he had taken a different path, a desolated path, so that he could avoid the arrows and the spears and the swords. When the enemy realized that they could not stop him through bravery, they resorted to deception and trickery. They hid themselves behind the palm trees that were on the ways. And when Hazrat Abbas ﷺ was moving towards the camp, one of the enemy soldiers stepped forward from behind the palm tree and he chopped off his right hand. When the right hand of Hazrat Abbas ﷺ was chopped off, he informed his Imam of what has happened by saying, Wallahi in qata'atum yamini, by Allah, even if you chop off my right hand, inni uhami abadan an dini, I will still forever defend my religion, and wa an imamin sadiqil yaqini, and my Imam who is sadiq, Najlin Nabiy Tahir al-Amin, who is the grandson of the Holy Prophet. No matter what happens to my right hand, I will continue to defend my religion and my Imam. A few moments later, he raised another slogan to inform his Imam of what has happened. He said, Ya nafsu la takhsha min al-kuffar. Oh my soul, do not fear the enemy. When would a person fear the enemy? When he does not have hands to fight. He says, Ya nafsu, oh my soul, do not fear the enemy. Wa abshiri bi rahmatil jabbar. And I'm giving you the glad tidings of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ma'an Nabi as-Sayyid al-Mukhtar, alongside with the Nabi Sayyid al-Mukhtar. Then he said, Qad qata'u biyamin bibaghyihim yasari. They have cut off my left hand through deception and trickery. He informed that my right and my left, both hands have been chopped off. This is the stage where Imam ﷺ was listening to the slogans and the sha'ar that he was giving. Hazrat Abbas is in a state which is full of disappointment. ऐसी मायूसी खुदा किसी को अता ना करे. ना खैमे की तरफ जा सकते हैं, ना वापस फुरात की तरफ जा सकते हैं. He cannot come back to the khayam because there is no water. The kids are waiting for water. They know that their uncle have gone to the river bank, river Euphrates, to bring water a bag full of water. How is he going to face Sakina and the other children? But he cannot also go back to river Euphrates. Why? Because there are no hands left. Hazrat Abbas mayus ho chuke hain. In such a moment, in such a situation, a person comes forward with an iron rod in his hand and he strikes Hazrat Abbas's head with that iron rod, and Hazrat Abbas falls to the ground saying, Ya akhi adrikni, oh my brother, come to my rescue. I wonder in what state Imam rushed towards him. The only statement that we find, the Imam says, Alan in kasara zahari. Today, right now, at this moment, my back is broken. He could not move. He could not move. His back was broken. Hazrat Abbas ﷺ was leaving this world, and he had called in the final moments, Ya akhi, oh my brother. कहा जाता है कि हजरत अब्बास ने अपनी पूरी जिंदगी अपने इमाम को भाई कहकर नहीं पुकारा. जब भी बुलाया, या मौला, या इमाम, आखिरी वक्त में भाई कहकर क्यों पुकारा? कुछ उलमा इसकी तौजी ये बयान करते हैं, इसको इस तरह से एक्सप्लेन करते हैं कि जब कोई शाहसवार जमीन पे गिरता है तो अपने हाथों के सहारे से गिरता है, लेकिन जब अब्बास जमीन पर आ रहे थे, हाथ नहीं थे. एक मर्तबा जनाब सैयदा ताहिरा ने आगोश को बढ़ाकर कहा होगा, ए मेरे बेटे मेरी आगोश में आ जा, मेरे बेटे मेरी आगोश में आ जा. जब सैयदा ताहिरा ने फर्जंदी में कबूल कर लिया, जब उन्होंने मुझे अपना बेटा कह दिया, तो इसी मुनासबत से अपने इमाम को पुकार कर कहा, या अखी अदरिकनी. अला लानतुल्लाहि अलल कौमिज़ ज़ालिमीन. Parwardigar, please accept what was recited and grant us the tawfiq to act according to the instructions of the Holy Quran, and so that we could fulfill the purpose of our creation. Matame Hussain.
Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Qamar Bani Hashim Abbas, shelter of Zainab Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Qamar Bani Hashim Abbas, shelter of Zainab Abbas. Everyone. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Pride of Amirul Mu'mineen, Lion of Ummul Baneen. Pride of Amirul Mu'mineen, Lion of Ummul Baneen. Lion of Ummul Baneen. Who can be brave as you, Mawla? Who can be brave as you, Mawla? Who can your loyalty surpass? Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya. Everyone. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. You are the Ghazi of Al-Qaman, the ultimate Sultan of Wafa. You are the Ghazi of Al-Qaman, the ultimate Sultan of Wafa. The ultimate Sultan of Wafa. You are the Qamar Bani Hashim. You are the Qamar Bani Hashim. Who can match your strength and class? Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya. Everyone. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. No scholar in history could fathom your mystery. No scholar in history could fathom your mystery. Could fathom your mystery. Firm as iron, soft as snow. Firm as iron, soft as snow. Sher jari qalbe hassas. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Everyone. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. One Abbas-e Karbala versus all of Ashqiya. One Abbas-e Karbala versus all of Ashqiya. Versus all of Ashqiya. Kuja akhi of Imam Zaman. Kuja akhi of Imam Zaman. Kuja the shar of jinn wan nas. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Everyone. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Said Abbas unto Hussain, with you Mawla till the end. Said Abbas unto Hussain, with you Mawla till the end. With you Mawla till the end. In this Laylatul Ashura, in this Laylatul Ashura, Aka, your haqq is clear as glass. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Qamar Bani Hashim Abbas, shelter of Zainab Abbas. Everyone. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Sham ghariba in Karbala, helpless orphans ashqiya. Sham
ghariba in Karbala, helpless orphans ashqiya.
Sham ghariba in Karbala, helpless orphans ashqiya. Sham
ghariba in Karbala, helpless orphans ashqiya.
Helpless orphans ashqiya. Where are you, Ammu Ghazi? Where are you, Ammu Ghazi? Cry Sakina, hai pyas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas. Qamar Bani Hashim Abbas, shelter of Zainab Abbas. Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, oh Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Mu'mineen, please take a seat. We will have a short question and answer session. We have about 10 minutes. Those of you who know how to enter the questions know that you can go to slido.com and enter Muharram 2022 to enter it online. Otherwise, we can also take questions from the audience. Moulana, over to you.
Is there questions from the audience? The audience will have priority.
Is there any specific reason the Maula Abbas was doing
Is there a specific reason that he was not given permission to fight?
that it is heard that it was not given on the sword once he was going to the battlefield?
No, he was given, he had the sword with him. He did fight when he was bringing water. Every soldier had a different responsibility to fulfill. And then they fulfilled those responsibilities. So Karbala was bound to happen. And what the Imam was doing, he was making sure that Karbala happened in such a way that its effects would resonate in history for all times to come. So that is why he took his companions, he took his Ali Asghar and the children and the family and the women, all of that. So he orchestrated Karbala in such a manner that it will have now everlasting effect. So that is why we see different companions being assigned different tasks.
Did Umar Saad and his soldiers have any personal enmity against Imam Hussain? I believe they did not have. What was the reason why they were against him or trying to kill him? And if those reasons are the actual enemy of Imam Hussain, then are those reasons only temporary or can they afflict us even now?
Very good and important question, and a detailed answer is needed, but I will try to summarize it very quickly. Yes, there were some soldiers who had personal enmity towards Imam Hussain. That is true. They had enmity towards his father, and that is why they were there. But not everybody. Not everybody. There were people in the camps who thought that Yazid is the caliph of the time, and whoever stands against the caliph is wajibul qatl, and therefore we are fulfilling our divine obligation by doing what we are doing. Imam Syed says how kitna ghamnak tha wo manzar, how sad, sorrowful was that view when people were moving towards the camp of the Ahlul Bayt, thinking that they are getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? They think that by killing Imam Hussain they are going to get closer to Allah. They are doing the religious obligation, and that is one of the dangers that we all face if we do not love this dunya and we love akhirah, the first and the back and the first and the back from which shaitan deceives us. So if you have managed to get to a place where this dunya is insignificant for you and akhirat is what you desire, but if you don't have the basirat, then you are going to fall prey to shaitan again. Those who kill Muslims in the name of Islam today, they do, a good majority of them are doing it because they think by doing so they are making a house in paradise. Right? So if you can manage to protect yourself from the front and the back attacks of shaitan, the third path is shaitan is going to use this virtue that you have achieved and coupled with your ignorance, lack of basira, to take you to hell again. So there were a group of people who were doing that. And then the main people, Shimr and Umar Saad, for example, his motives are very clear. When Ibn Ziyad invited him and gave him the task of executing this mission, he took a night's time, and he was promised the kingdom of Ray. So he came home and he discussed with his son and he said himself, I am seeing myself standing between Jannah and Jahannam. I see myself finding between hell and heaven. But the love of this dunya was so strong in him that he wanted kingdom and control and power over the Shahr of Ray. And that is what was driving him, and he said, okay, I will do whatever I want to do. And some of them were thinking that it will not lead to a point where I will have to execute Imam Hussain. Maybe there will be some patch up, and then there will be some, we all in politics, people make these calculations. We won't have to go all the full mile. Things might resort sooner. Even Hur thought that. Till on the day of Ashur, he realized that no, this is getting serious. And then he decided to change paths. He was hopeful that something, because killing Imam Hussain was not easy thing to do. Umar Saad might have thought the same. In a meeting that they had with Umar Saad, Imam Hussain Islam had a private meeting with Umar Saad. A few people from there and a group from Imam Hussain, they met, and Imam asked him to let go of this task and he said, well, I want the kingdom of Ray. And Imam said, you're not going to benefit, you will not get the wheat of the Shahr of Ray, the city of Ray. And he said, well, in that case, I will make myself content with the barley of the Shahr of Ray, of the city of Ray, or the kingdom of Ray. So it was this authority and power. People were promised control, that if you execute this, you will be appointed as the leader of this, and you will be appointed as the leader of this. And that holds for all of us today. We, because our love for wealth, or power, or fame, can do these similar things. We can destroy a good movement because of power struggle. We can destroy a good movement because of love of wealth or love of fame. So we all suffer. And one of the things that the Imam mentioned even on the day of Ashur and when he met Hur and even when he reached Karbala, he said, religion is on the lips of people. Religion is on the lips of people. They keep religion with them as long as it does not affect their economy. And as soon as it conflicts with their economy, as soon as the going gets tough, the religious people are very few. So when we are tested, when you have to leave your job because of the right decision, it is there when you will be tested. Or do you submit to corruption, or do you leave that job? If you're leaving that job, what is going on in your mind? How will my family survive? How am I going to pay my next bill? So these exams, these tests are there for all of us even today. So there is Karbala. So if you look at that, saying Kullu Ardin Karbala, wa Kullu Yawmin Ashura. So that exam is there, that test is there for all of us at wherever we stand in our levels of Marifah. So that exam is there. So yes, we need to identify the reasons why those people did, and those reasons are still valid today, and we are all going to be fighting that battle. One last question and then we will stop. Yes.
I wanted to ask, why are there so many mysteries in the event of Karbala? There are lots of missing parts that we don't know about.
Yes, there are lots of missing parts. It was very important, even for the Imam. He had appointed a person specifically to write down the details of what is happening in Karbala. So there was a companion of the Imam and he was very upset, and he used to cry and say, Imam, I will be denied martyrdom. And he said, this is your task, you need to record this. There were people who were recording it from the side of the army. Hamidu, the Muslim, was a Christian historian. He was reporting, but because of all the wars over history, a lot of those texts that were written got destroyed. And we don't have access to them. We have only bits and pieces here and there, and some of it has been, we have reconstructed some of the story by compiling and gathering those pieces. And then the Imams over the time, they filled in some of the pieces as well. So based on what happened over history, parts of the text have been lost, and because of that we don't have each and every detail available to us right now. But there is enough detail to figure out, or to separate haq and batil. That light, that detail is there. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك وعلى 9 المعصومين من بريتك جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا مغيث الشيعة والزوار في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا سلطان العرب والعجم علي بن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان مولاي الأمان 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 من فتن الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك الطاهرين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.